My parents skipped my graduation for my sister's party. AITA for cutting ties due to their neglect. Hello Reddit, I've been struggling for years with a family dilemma and I need your opinion. Hold on tight, because this is a lengthy and intricate tale. My upbringing was typical of a suburban American family, but with a twist. The golden child has always been my older sister. It was evident from the time of my birth that my parents had a favorite, and it wasn't me. They wanted my sister to be attractive, athletic, and vivacious, and she was all three. She had the ability to enchant everyone, including neighbors and new classmates, giving them the sense that she was the epitome of perfection. Then there was me. I wouldn't describe myself as typical, but in my parents' eyes, I might as well have been invisible in comparison to my sister. I was constantly failing. They prevented me from being who I am because they wanted me to appear and behave like her. I wasn't even allowed the luxury of attempting to find myself at a time when most children are having a hard time. Allow me to illustrate this with a few instances from our everyday life. My sister was always the main character in school plays when we were kids. Our parents would be in the spotlight, beaming with delight, and she would be given the lead part. I recall having a minor speaking role in the school play one year. I was ecstatic because I believed that this would be my opportunity to finally make them proud. However, my sister had a soccer match the night of the concert, so they were running late. They devoted the remainder of the evening to praising my sister's performance in her game, completely missing my contribution. The family pictures came next. We would take a family photo each year to use on our Christmas cards. With our parents' hands on her shoulders, my sister would always be the center of attention. Almost as an afterthought, I would be off to the side. I requested if I might stand in the center for once when I was around 12 years old. It hurt more than words can describe when my mother laughed it off and said, "Oh honey, your sister is taller. It just looks better this way." As the abandoned kid who lived in their sister's shadow, all I wanted as a child was the approval and attention of my parents. My day used to be brightened by the smallest hint of positive feedback from them. I realize that's pathetic, but at the moment, it meant the world to me. It wasn't made any easier by my sister. I was bullied by her, and she was brilliant at it. She would never stop telling me that I would never be able to live up to her standards and that our parents would never love me as much as they loved her. My self-esteem was influenced for years to come by everyday suffering. I have a clear memory of one occasion. I had just won a local writing competition at the age of 14. I was ecstatic, thinking, at last, I've accomplished something significant. My sister interrupted me at dinner to announce that she had been selected as the cheerleading squad's captain. Suddenly, my accomplishment was forgotten. My parents talked about how this would look fantastic on her college applications for the remainder of the evening. My victory in the event was never brought up again. The preference became much more obvious as we got older. Our parents purchased a brand new vehicle for my sister when she obtained her driver's license. 2 years later, when it was my turn, I was informed that if I needed to go someplace, I could borrow the old family minivan. Every time I attempted to bring up the obvious difference in treatment, I was told I was being jealous or overly sensitive. When I graduated from high school, that was the tipping point. I was able to graduate as valedictorian in spite of all the difficulties. I couldn't wait to tell my parents about it because it was the proudest time of my early life. As I delivered my speech, I pictured them grinning with pride, finally recognizing me for who I truly was. However, they failed to appear. It seems like my sister's celebration with her friends at our summer cottage was more significant than their younger daughter's high school graduation. They offered me a number of justifications, claiming that graduating from high school wasn't a huge issue. It meant everything to me. I had worked so hard for this moment, which I believed would finally bring them joy. The seats I had set up for the audience were empty, so I recall standing at the stage and looking around in the hopes of seeing their faces. As I spoke at the ceremony, my voice quivering a little, I understood that anything I accomplished would never be sufficient for them. Something inside of me broke that day. I made a choice that would alter my life's trajectory. I chose the college that was the furthest distant from my house. As far away from Ohio as possible, I applied to West Coast schools. My parents were taken aback when I told them I had decided to attend college after dinner one evening. They had presumed that I would attend the same public school where my sister had gone. "But that's so far away," objected my mother. "How will you manage on your own?" It was the first time I can recall them being concerned about me, although even then, there was some skepticism about my skills. College was enlightening. I was able to be myself for the first time in my life. My favorite subject was English, which I studied despite my parents' disapproval. My studies had been pushed to be practical, as they called it, like law or business. However, I refused to back down. I discovered how to live my life as I desired, ignoring their judgment. I really started to take off in college. I found my own strengths without having to constantly compare myself to my sister. I discovered that I had a knack for journalism after joining the campus newspaper. For the first time, I felt recognized and valued for my own abilities when my professors gave me positive feedback on my work. I also met my future husband while I was a college student. Instead of viewing me as someone's sister or daughter, he viewed me for who I was. We first connected in a literary class for general education. I volunteered to help him with an essay he was having trouble with. We spent hours discussing our lives, aspirations, and anxieties in addition to the assignment. For the first time, I felt like I was being heard. My pals weren't truly friends. Usually, they merely approached me to learn more about my sister. However, I discovered in college the importance of true friendships, love, and all of their facets. It wasn't because of or in spite of my family that I met friends who liked me for who I was. We would encourage one another through the stress of term papers and examinations, go on road trips during breaks, and stay up late studying together. I didn't bother phoning my family once I graduated, as I was surrounded by my friends and my future husband. I was correct when I said that they would come up with another reason to skip it. They failed to show up, claiming that my father was unable to postpone a business trip. However, it didn't hurt as much this time. I was surrounded by members of my chosen family who genuinely cared about my progress. I moved in with my now husband, who had secured a position at a tech firm, after graduating and obtained a job in marketing. All I ever heard from my parents when they called at this time was the news about my sister. I never had the stamina to tell them about my life, and they never bothered to inquire about me. Unless they were making negative comparisons to my sister, it seemed as though I didn't exist. One call stands out in my memory. About 6 months had passed since graduation. For someone just out of college, my promotion to junior manager was rather significant. I was thrilled and hoped that my folks would be pleased. I was excited to tell my mother the news when she called. "Oh, that's nice, dear. Did you hear your sister is expecting? We're going to be grandparents," she replied after a brief silence. My sister's pregnancy took up the remainder of the call. No one ever brought up my promotion again. As the years went by, my career took off. I rose through the ranks of the company, receiving honors and promotions, but my family didn't seem to care. My accomplishments were greeted with disdain, or worse, silence, while my sister's merest accomplishments were hailed as national feasts. I made an effort to stay in touch with my relatives. Yes, I did. I would occasionally fly back for Thanksgiving, send birthday cards, and make phone calls on holidays. However, each visit was identical. My sister and her expanding family would take center stage, and I would be relegated to the background. My parents hardly acknowledged me as they lavished affection on her kids, my niece and nephew. I remember one Thanksgiving in particular. I had taken a leave of absence from an important project at work and flown home. I hoped that things would be different this time. Without the typical drama, perhaps we could enjoy a pleasant family meal. How foolish I was. We talked about my sister's recent home improvement and her kids' academic success the whole evening. My father interrupted me in the middle of telling me about my recent promotion to senior manager to inquire about my sister's Christmas plans. My current spouse and I became engaged a few years later. Later that year, we were to get married. Surprisingly, my family expressed interest in the marriage when I told them. I dared to dream for a second that things could be turning around. However, when they learned that my fiancé came from a typical middle-class family instead of a wealthy one, their curiosity soon gave way to disappointment. They wanted me to marry into a family with great social standing, just like my sister did. "You know, your sister's husband is a surgeon, so there must be some good physicians or attorneys at your company." "But honey," my mother continued, her voice brimming with disappointment, "don't you think you could do better?" Their suggestion left me stunned. They were still unable to accept my decisions and see me for who I was after all these years. The final person to find out about my wedding was my sister, who never held back when voicing her dislike for both my fiancé and me. She always talked to me as if I were the dirt under her feet. However, I was insensitive to her reactions by that point because I had grown accustomed to it. She scoffed when I informed her about my fiancé's work and asked, "A marketing manager? I suppose that's nice. Not everyone can marry a doctor, after all." We proceeded with our wedding arrangements in spite of my family's response. With the assistance of my in-laws and friends, the wedding was organized. The parents I never had were my in-laws. I cried more than once because they loved me unconditionally and treated me like their own. They constantly promised me that they would support me because they were aware of my difficulties with my sister and parents. My future in-laws were kind, encouraging, and truly interested in my life, everything I could have ever hoped for in a parent. They celebrated by taking us out to dinner after I informed them of my promotion. They listened to my worries about the wedding and my family's response without passing judgment and provided consolation and guidance. One of the conversations I had with my future mother-in-law almost made me cry. I hesitated when we were discussing wedding invitations because they were from my family. She asked what was wrong after noticing my anxiety. She dropped the pen she was holding and took my hands in hers after I explained the circumstances. "Sweetheart," she declared, "family is more than blood. It's the people who love and support you, who celebrate your joys and comfort you in your sorrows. We may not have given birth to you, but you are our daughter in every way that matters." I couldn't adequately convey the significance of her words. For the first time, I felt like I belonged somewhere and that people loved and respected me for who I was, not how I compared to other people. Ultimately, my parents weren't happy with the way our wedding was organized. Only our closest friends and family were invited to the tiny, uncomplicated wedding. My fiancé and I both desired a simple wedding that would highlight and symbolize our relationship and love. However, my parents urged me to alter the specifics in order to accommodate a larger gathering with lavish decor. They contended that since I was their daughter, I ought to get married the way my sister did. Their last-minute suggestions irritated me, so I urged them to focus on me for once. "This is my wedding," I firmly informed them. "We want a small, intimate ceremony with the people who truly care about us. If you can't respect that, then maybe you shouldn't come at all." It was so quiet on the other end of the phone. My sister was clearly struggling to come to terms with the fact that my wedding day will be all about me. Every time we met, she made sure to demoralize me by making crude remarks about what a real wedding ought to be like. With a tone full of phony worry, she would ask, "Are you sure you want to do it this way? People might think you can't afford a proper wedding. It's not too late to let mom and dad help, you know." I was experiencing a mixture of trepidation and excitement as the wedding day drew near. The family conflict was clouding what should have been the happiest day of my life, even though I was excited to marry the love of my life. There was a lot of last-minute planning going on the week before the wedding. We were rushing about to finalize the details, check with vendors, and greet visitors from out of town. My phone was eerily silent the entire time. There were no texts from my sister wishing me luck or calls from my parents asking if I needed assistance. The quiet was a fresh source of worry as well as a relief. My phone eventually buzzed the night before the wedding, while we were sitting in our apartment surrounded by seating maps and wedding favors. My mother sent me a text. "Your father and I will see you tomorrow. Don't forget to wear the necklace your grandmother left you." No congrats. No show of enthusiasm or affection. Just a little reminder that I was already going to wear a family heirloom. That night, I slept with a knot in my gut, wondering what the next day might hold. Would I be accepted for who I am by my family at last? For a single day, might they put aside their criticisms and comparisons and just be pleased for me? Or was I preparing myself for one last heartbreaking letdown? I had no idea that the worst was still to come. I'm at a loss, Reddit. The catastrophe on the wedding day and the events that transpired have caused me to doubt everything. Is it inappropriate of me to want my parents to attend my special day? Are years of neglect causing me to overreact? I want your honest thoughts. Is it time to break off relations with my family, or should I keep fighting for a relationship? I'll provide an update on the wedding day and its aftermath shortly. I would be very grateful for any guidance or assistance. I feel like I'm at a fork in the road and don't know which way to go. First update. I appreciate all of your support on my last post, Reddit. I've attached the update I promised regarding my wedding day and its events. On the morning of my wedding, I felt both anxious and excited. My mom called as I was getting ready. My heart leaped for any encouraging or loving words. Rather, she struck a devastating blow. "Honey, we won't be able to make it to the wedding. Your sister's child is having his birthday party today, and you know how important family is to us." I was taken aback. Instead of attending their daughter's wedding, my parents were picking a kid's birthday celebration. "Don't be selfish, dear, I'm sure you understand. You don't even have children, so these things might not seem important to you," my mother stated in response to my complaint. I felt numb as I hung up. When my future mother-in-law heard, she reassured me right away. "Remember," she continued, "you have a whole room of people here who love you and are excited to celebrate with you today." At that moment I resolved not to allow the absence of my family spoil my day. It was a lovely ceremony. Nothing else mattered until I saw the joy on my fiancé's face as I walked down the aisle. It meant so much to me that my father-in-law substituted for me during the father-daughter dance. Although there was a lot of love and happiness at the reception, my family's absence was always brought to mind by the vacant chairs where they should have been. My family had left me notes and missed calls when I got up the following morning. In fact, my sister had texted, "Hope you had a nice wedding. Sorry we couldn't make it, but the party was a blast." The final straw was that. I dialed them, my voice trembling with determination and rage. I said, "I'm done," to them. "You've shown me where I stand in this family, and I'm done accepting it. From now on, you're no longer part of my life." I hung up and banned their numbers in spite of their protests. It was the most liberating thing I've ever done, but it was also one of the hardest. The next weeks have been difficult. In addition to feelings of relief, there are times of uncertainty and sorrow. The support from my husband and in-laws has been tremendous. In order to overcome years of emotional neglect, I have begun treatment. My marriage and our future together are my main priorities, one that isn't hampered by my family's rejection for the first time. Again, I want to thank Reddit for your support. I was able to defend myself because of it. I'm focusing on getting better and moving on for the time being, but I'll keep you updated if anything noteworthy occurs. Am I mistaken for severing my familial ties? Even though I no longer believe so, I would still value your opinions as I move forward in this new phase of my life. Second update. Reddit, I haven't posted in a month, and my family situation has gotten worse. This is what took place. My parents arrived at our flat without warning a week after I last posted. They demanded to know why I had severed ties with them. I carefully described how their absence at my wedding and years of neglect had caused me much pain. "We've always loved you," my mom insisted. "Everything we did was because we wanted the best for you." It was unbelievable to me. I explained to them how their partiality had damaged my self-worth and how, as a result of their treatment of me, I had spent years believing I was unworthy. It was not warmly received by them. While my mother wept over me breaking her heart, my father accused me of being ungrateful. Fortunately, my in-laws showed up and requested that my parents vacate. "When you're done with this tantrum, you know where to find us?" my mother added as they departed. I was mistaken to believe that would be the end of it. I came across a social media post from my sister a few weeks later. "Finally got my dream bike. Thanks, Mom and Dad," was the caption for a picture of her holding my old motorcycle. I was taken aback. I purchased that bike on my own after graduating from high school. I intended to bring it to my new residence following the wedding, therefore I had left it at my parents' house. My sister confirmed that our parents had given her the bike when I called her. My parents dismissed it when I brought it up, claiming that once I was married, I no longer needed it. My father told me, "Don't be selfish. Your sister needs it more than you do." That was the last straw. I threatened to take legal action if they didn't return the bike right away. They said I couldn't sue my parents, laughing. I answered, "Watch me," and hung up. My husband and I talked it over and ultimately agreed to get legal advice. She verified that we had a case. I owned the motorcycle, which I had paid for myself. We have formally demanded in writing that the motorcycle be returned. We're ready to go to court if that doesn't work. I never imagined that I would have to consider taking my own parents to court, yet here we are. Am I going too far by bringing up attorneys, Reddit? Is it right for me to hold my ground, or should I let the motorcycle go for the sake of peace? As soon as my parents respond, I'll provide an update. I would be grateful for any guidance or assistance. All of this feels unreal, and I'm having a hard time figuring it out. I appreciate your support, everyone. You don't realize how much it matters. Third update. Hello Reddit, I'm back to provide the resolution to this family drama, which has been going on for approximately 3 months. I want to thank each and every one of you for your unwavering support during this challenging road. A lot has transpired. Let us start by discussing the motorcycle's legal status. My parents originally disregarded the formal letter we wrote requesting its back. They appeared to believe that we were threatening to file a lawsuit. My father finally answered the phone when our lawyer called to follow up, but he only did so to deny our accusations and threatened to disown me if we went any further. We made the decision to bring a civil lawsuit. Although it was a difficult choice, we believed that we had to defend our position. It was a weird day when we learned that the lawsuit had been filed. I never thought that my parents and I would be involved in a court case, but here we were. To our astonishment, my parents' attitude drastically altered once they recognized how serious we were. They wanted to talk things out, and stay out of court all of a sudden. Their plan to sort things out, though, was to use guilt tripping to get me to dismiss the lawsuit. My father would alternate between being angry and trying to manipulate me by saying things like, "After all we've done for you, this is how you repay us." My mother called and sobbed about how I was destroying the family over a silly bike. I remained steadfast. I clarified that the issue was no longer simply about the motorcycle but also about limits, respect, and realizing that they had no right to give away my belongings. My parents eventually consented to return the motorcycle after realizing they would have to appear in court. Nonetheless, they demanded payment for my sister's gift from them. As long as I regained my property, I was okay with this. It was a stressful day when I went to pick up the motorcycle. Fortunately, my sister wasn't present, but my parents were aloof and unfriendly. My mother tried to guilt me one final time as I was getting ready to depart. "I hope you're happy now," she said. "You've gotten what you wanted, but at what cost?" After giving her a quick glance, I answered, "The cost of my self-respect and the realization that I deserved better treatment from my family." After that, I felt both sad and free as I went out on my bike. I've come to the conclusion that I need to take a total vacation from my family as a result of this event. I haven't made this decision lightly, but I think it's essential for my well-being and mental health. I've been negatively impacted by the years of favoritism toward my sister, the ongoing manipulation of my emotions, and the disdain for my accomplishments and sentiments. I've tried to gain their acceptance for far too long, only to be let down and hurt all the time. I've benefited greatly from my therapist's assistance in processing these emotions. She has taught me that putting my own health first, even if it means separating from toxic family members, is okay. She has also assisted me in identifying the emotional abuse patterns that I have accepted throughout the years. I've formally told my parents that I've decided to sever all contact. I wrote them a letter outlining my justifications and requesting that they honor my request to avoid communication. Their reaction was expected. A mix of fury, guilt-tripping, and attempts to downplay how I felt. However, I was able to ignore it for the first time. I've come to understand that my value is not determined by what they think of me. Naturally, my sister has sided with our parents. I've blocked her on all social media sites to stop her from spreading hateful remarks about ungrateful siblings and the importance of family. The upside is that this experience has strengthened my bonds with my husband and in-laws. They have provided me with constant love and support, making them my rock. In particular, my mother-in-law has been amazing. Whenever I needed a consoling embrace or a sympathetic ear, she was there. With the drama in my family no longer a burden, my husband and I have been concentrating on creating our life together. We've been discussing creating a family, and for the first time, I'm thrilled about the idea without having to worry about constantly being compared to others or living up to unrealistic expectations. I've also been putting a lot of effort into my hobbies and job. Painting has been immensely therapeutic and has helped me rediscover aspects of myself that I had repressed for years. I've always wanted to try painting but never did because my parents didn't think it was a useful skill. We've been hanging out a lot with friends who have grown to be like family. Being around by upbeat, encouraging people has completely changed the way I view the world. In retrospect, I can say that this entire experience has been both transforming and extremely painful. I've learned to prioritize my own well-being, set limits, and advocate for myself. I've come to understand that family is made up of those who love and support you without conditions, not just blood ties. I want to reassure those who may be in similar circumstances, it's acceptable to keep your distance from poisonous family members. Prioritizing your happiness and mental well-being is okay. You should be supported, loved, and respected, and sometimes it means starting your own family. I would want to express my gratitude to this community for all of your help and guidance during this trip. You have no idea how much your encouraging comments have meant to me. They have made me believe in myself and have given me courage in the most trying times. I feel optimistic about the future as I finish this chapter of my life. I'm excited about the life I'm creating, a life full of love, respect, and true happiness. But I'm also sad about the family ties I've lost. Once again, thank you everybody. I'm thankful to know that this community is available in case I ever need assistance, even if I hope I won't have to provide any more updates concerning family drama. Family and fiancé pressured me to reconcile with my dad, who left for his new family, but I refuse. Now I'm left feeling isolated. When I was 13, my father had an affair, left my mother and moved in with his affair partner, whom we will call Janet. My sister and I used to see him every weekend, and I have to confess that he was a decent father, but I never liked Janet. When Janet became pregnant and they had a son, our visits became less frequent, and my father became more worried about his new family. He missed some of my performances and my sister's competitions because he was preoccupied with his son. Janet chose to relocate when I was 16 years old in search of a better job. My sister and I begged him not to leave, but Dad simply responded, "I need to prioritize my family." He moved 10 hours away, which effectively destroyed our relationship. I decided to maintain no contact because it was evident he did not consider me family. My younger sister remained in contact with him. He would try to call and invite me to visit my sister, but I refused. When he returned to see my sister, I refused to talk to him when he arrived at the house. I did not invite him to my high school or college graduation. I'm now 33 and have had no touch with him. He has tried to contact me several times over the years, and his family has reached out on his behalf. I've avoided family gatherings in case he attends, such as my sister's wedding and baby showers. My father and his family returned to our hometown 3 months ago, and he has been tireless in his efforts to reconcile. My half-brother and sister have both expressed interest in a relationship with him, stating that he is an excellent father. My father found out I'm getting married and has been attempting to contact me, even speaking with my fiancée. Janet messaged me, stating I had continually broken my father's heart, that I am sad, and that I should get therapy. I reacted, calling her a expletive, and then blocked her. Everyone seems to be urging me to accept him back into my life. I'm weary of being harassed and unintentionally running into my father and his family in town. Whenever I see them, I simply walk away and refuse to speak. People keep telling me he's a decent father who did his best to stay in touch, but I pushed him away. The pressure is immense. My mother, sister, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and even some friends all insist that I reconcile. Even my fiancé has begun to question my decision to exclude him. Update 1. I recently chatted with my fiancé and regrettably things didn't go well. I've had enough and want to run away. My fiancé, whom I will refer to as Larry, is aware of my background with my father and Janet. I stated that his siding with my father and pressing me was harming me, and that as my fiancé, he should be supporting me. Larry informed me that he cannot support me in doing anything that he believes is bad. He said he spoke with my father, heard all sides of the story, and believes we can resolve things if we sit down and chat. I told Larry I didn't want to communicate with my father and asked why he was talking to him. Larry revealed that his father, who is acquainted with my father, pushed him to contact him. He then informed me that my father adores me and has always wanted to be a part of my life. He even has images of me, which I believe he obtained from family because my social media is private. Larry stated that my father is heartbroken over our estrangement and that I was unfair in asking him to move away when I was young. He also claimed that I started off on the wrong foot with Janet and that I was not to blame for the relationship's failure. Finally, he informed me that everyone can see the truth except me, and that I should look in the mirror since I am the problem. Needless to say, I burst out crying and asked him why he was doing this to me and not supporting me. Larry claims to love me, but he won't stand by and let me be a cruel expletive. After he said this, I stood up, told him that he shouldn't marry a cruel expletive, and left. I am currently sitting in my car and my phone is blowing up with Larry attempting to call me, but I do not want to speak with him. I feel as if I'm losing everything and everyone, and I have no idea what's happening. Update 2. I know many of you are encouraging me to break off all contact with my family and leave town, but it is not an option for me financially. I wouldn't be able to start my business somewhere because I've invested all of my money in it and have only recently generated a consistent revenue. Relocating is not viable. I adore my friends and family and don't want to cut them off. I grew up in this town, and I'm not ready to leave. I did not intend to write another report so quickly, but a lot has transpired today. First, I agreed to meet with my father to discuss and persuade him to back off and leave me alone. I requested my mother to arrange it for him and no one else. I wasn't sure he'd agree, but within 15 minutes of her calling, he was at the door. I requested my mother to stay and mediate. To paraphrase the talk, my father is in therapy and invites me to join him for family sessions. He wants me to spend one-on-one time with him, to stop being harsh and mean to his children, and to believe in them. He also demanded that I stop trash-talking Janet and invite him and his family to my wedding, including asking him to walk me down the aisle. I, on the other hand, want him to quit talking to my friends and asking others to speak for him. I want him to keep Janet away from me totally, and I agreed to be courteous at events and around town as long as he does not try to hug or chat to me. My mother reminded him that he was being unrealistic about some of his desires, particularly those involving Janet and his other children. For the time being, we've agreed that I'll attend 3 therapy sessions with him as he schedules them. My mother also believes I require individual therapy. He will cease interfering with my life and relationships, keep Janet away from me and ask his children to give me room. I will be courteous with him in public as long as he respects my personal space and does not approach or press me. I still haven't spoken to my fiancé. He arrived at my mother's house, but she refused to let him inside. He keeps blowing up my phone, as do his family and friends, and telling me to listen to him. During my meeting with my father, I discovered that he had paid for the majority of the vendors and services for my impending wedding, and they have been on speaking terms for far longer than I had anticipated. Larry had told me that his family paid for these items, and I believed him. I feel betrayed by him, and I no longer trust him. I know I'll have to talk to him someday, but I don't feel ready yet. Update 3. First and foremost, the contract with my father is off the table. He couldn't even go a week without crossing my limits, thus there will be no therapy sessions with him, and I will maintain no contact. After deciding on a course of action, keeping Janet away from me, asking his kids to back off, and respecting my personal space, it only lasted 3 days. Everyone looked pleased that I had forgiven my father and told me so. My sister was thrilled that I was willing to give him a chance, and under duress, I agreed to have dinner with just her and my father. When my sister and I arrived at the restaurant to meet our father, he wasn't alone. He had invited Janet, my grandparents, his son, and daughter. He stood up and attempted to hug me. I immediately grew agitated, wondering why they were there. My father informed me that if we wanted to mend our relationship, I needed to embrace Janet and my younger siblings. I tried to leave after telling him that he had broken our agreement and that he should never contact me again. He wouldn't let me go and took hold of me. When I say all hell broke loose, I really mean it. I began shouting at them, and my father, Janet, and grandparents attempted to gaslight me and persuade me to sit down. When that didn't work, things became heated, resulting in a shouting battle. My father and Janet said many horrible things, including comments about my appearance and dubbing me a psychopath. My half-brother left the restaurant and my half-sister began to cry. My sister astonished me by defending me and accusing my father of wrecking things after I had finally given him a chance. She even slapped Janet. My sister took me out of there and apologized to me. I believe this was the first time she had witnessed Janet's interactions with me and how she handled me. She kept repeating she couldn't understand how Dad had spent years professing he would do anything to get me back, only to sabotage the relationship when he finally had the opportunity to re-establish it. My father has tried to contact me, but I have blocked him and refused to speak to him. I also refuse to speak with my grandparents. My father has tried to get my mother and sister to talk with me, but I believe he has burned his bridges with them. The conflict in the restaurant has spread and some people appear to be backing off. As I already stated, what my father and Janet said to me was inexcusable, and because we live in a tiny town, it spread quickly. Hopefully, individuals will back down, and those that continue to support them will be forced out of my life. My sister is very unhappy with my father and Janet and she refuses to speak to them. She blames them for my continued lack of communication. She is not allowing them to see her children either. I'm not sure if my sister will reconcile, but she is furious right now. My mother is also furious, and she appears to have had a few choice words with my father and Janet. She has agreed not to force me again to communicate with him. I'm going to start individual treatment since I believe I really need it. I feel awful for my half-siblings because they have done nothing wrong. I may be willing to have a distant relationship with them in the future, but I'm not ready yet, and I'm not sure I ever will be. I did send them a note on Facebook to apologize and assure them that they had not done anything wrong. Finally, to inform you all on my fiancé. I chatted with him yesterday about everything. I'd been radio silent since walking out on him. Essentially, he was pressured by his father to speak with my father and was offered a sob story about a misunderstood parent who really wanted to be involved in his daughter's life. Larry was unhappy with me for refusing to attend his family functions and for leaving his mother's birthday party when I realized my father and Janet were present. He was under pressure from his family to not disrupt their activities, and all he wanted was for everyone to be happy and get along, clearly at my price. Larry said that my father had paid for some of the wedding suppliers, but he didn't realize it until after the event was over. His father had informed Larry that he and his mother had paid for everything. My father had informed Larry that it was his way of giving. Larry also revealed that my father had instructed him to speak to me on his behalf. I informed Larry that he had abused my confidence and I couldn't imagine marrying someone who didn't support me. He came down in tears and apologized to me, promising never to do it again. Larry was upset and asked for another opportunity. To all of you who expected me to end our relationship, I apologize for disappointing you, but we will try to work things out. Aside from this incident, he has been the ideal partner, and I sincerely believe he was duped by his family and my father. Larry has sworn to stand up to his family and have no contact with my father. I'm still living with my mother because I need space, which I won't have if I move back home. We will contact our wedding vendors next week to discuss our alternatives. Larry begs for a postponement rather than canceling the wedding completely. We may still break up because actions speak louder than words, and I want to see if he can rebuild what we had and demonstrate that I can trust and rely on him. My father has been attempting to reach me, but I've blocked him. Larry has sworn to stand up to his family and have no contact with my father. There's no point in changing my phone number because I've done it before and my father always gets to acquire it again. Larry is open to the possibility of ending their relationship. I'm giving him an opportunity to show me that he means what he says. I always felt I had a good relationship with Larry's family, but I was definitely mistaken. I'm not asking him to have no contact with them, that is up to him, but I will absolutely separate myself from them. Any additional occurrences will result in no contact. If we are still together and have children, I will not trust his family with them. Update 4. I've cancelled the wedding. I was able to receive some returns, but I lost some money. Larry begged me not to cancel the wedding, but I couldn't marry him after what he'd done. I was determined to give him another chance, and he promised me he would maintain low contact and stand up to his parents, issuing an ultimatum that we would not allow any communication with my father and Janet. He agreed that we would not attend any gathering or party to which they were invited, and that we would not allow any attempts to force contact with my father. Larry met with his family to explain the situation, but when he returned from the discussion, he was agitated and appeared to have changed his mind. He tried to persuade me that his family only meant good and that he couldn't avoid touch with them because he loves them. He also stated that he couldn't control their friendships and tried to reassure me that it wouldn't be an issue in the future. He claimed his father would speak with my father and ensure he acted appropriately in my presence. As soon as I heard this, I started thinking about the remarks I'd read. The primary one is that if we had children, Larry might take them to his family, which includes my father and Janet, and I would have no control over it. At that point, I understood I couldn't trust Larry and would never be able to. I broke up with him. Larry isn't taking it well and constantly begging me to accept him back, swearing he won't contact his family. His family and friends are pleading with me not to stop the relationship, but he has made his decision and demonstrated to me that he lacks courage. I do not need him in my life. In reference to my father, I am considering obtaining a restraining order. Given what transpired at the restaurant, I may be able to, but I'm not sure yet. My acquaintance is assisting me in investigating the matter. My father has kept a low profile since last week, with the exception of a few attempts to apologize, and I haven't heard anything from him. My sister still refuses to speak with my father or Janet. Unlike me, my sister is very confrontational and has attacked them on social media about what happened at the restaurant and other earlier events that I was unaware of. When my sister and Janet ran into each other in town, they had a very public yelling match, with Janet demanding that my sister remove her posts. It concluded with Janet assaulting my sister. My father reportedly sided with Janet in this, and now my sister despises Janet and refuses to speak with our father, who is also attempting to reach her. My father's and Janet's reputation appears to have suffered as a result of the restaurant event, my sister's battle with Janet, and several Facebook posts about them. Individuals are gossiping, which has worked well for me since some individuals have backed down, which I am pleased about. Unfortunately, a few people continue to support him, including my ex's parents. There hasn't been much news about my half-siblings recently. I've located a therapist, but there's a bit of a waiting list before I can begin therapy. I'm still living with my mother, who is completely supportive, and I've found a cat that I'll pick up next week. Update 5. I'm still at my mother's house and I've got my tiny kitten. I named her Sasha, and she is the loveliest thing, yet quite lively. I'll try to take pictures for people who request them, but she won't stay still long enough for a decent shot. I already love her, and my mother continues to be my rock. I'm still waiting for treatment, but I'm finding Reddit beneficial and therapeutic, and the majority of the people here have been quite kind and helped me see things more clearly. So many thanks to everyone. As for my ex, now that we've split up, I feel lighter and more free. Being away from him has made me realize all of the red lights in our relationship that I was previously unaware of, and I feel like I escaped unharmed. Luke, who is using real names because my blogs were discovered, is not dealing well with the separation and has taken over my father's role in continually disturbing me. If you read this, Luke, we're done, and I won't change my mind. So stop phoning me, coming to my house, or sending me flowers. I'm moving on, and you should too. My sister, Emma, is still on my side and has moved on from Janet, the step-monster. My sister informed everyone about Janet's affairs and they are no longer communicating. Janet is still trying to preserve face, claiming my sister is lying and telling everyone that we are the worst and have treated her terribly throughout the years, attempting to ruin her marriage. I don't think anyone believes what she is saying. Janet has sent hateful mails to both myself and my sister. When we ran into her, she yelled at us and threatened us. My sister's car has been keyed and my store windows have been broken. Unfortunately, we can't prove anything, but she's the most likely suspect. My half-siblings are undoubtedly my father's children. They were tested years ago when she was a baby. According to what I've heard, they're not speaking with Janet at all. My father seemed to have grown a spine and kicked Janet out. She is currently living with her parents, according to what I've heard, and he is considering divorce. I haven't spoken with my father since he apologized for everything in a text message. Regarding a restraining order, I'm more concerned with obtaining one against Janet at this time. I have cameras, but you can't tell if it's her due to the angle. I'm getting fitted for better covering. The damage is already done. My father had a chance to make things right with me, but he squandered it. I just want to be alone and get on with my life. Update 6. My father and Janet are still together. They split up for a period but are now back together and maintaining a united face, despite the fact that she is a cheater. Apparently, they tried again for the sake of their children. Strangely enough, my father and I are in a better place. We text periodically and are friendly when we see each other. He has ceased pushing for a relationship and is now respecting my space. We can now be in the same room without generating a commotion, and we've even had the occasional coffee together, which to be honest, is all I ever wanted. He even provided me with my education fund without any restrictions attached. My step-siblings and I have begun to communicate and follow each other on social media. My stepsister occasionally comes to my workplace to assist. I knew they were not to blame, and I was being unjust to them. They are still furious with their mother, but they have to live with her. They're giving her the quiet treatment, as far as I can tell. I still despise Janet, but at least she isn't bothering me. Unfortunately, I was unable to obtain a restraining order against her owing to a lack of proof. I avoid and do not speak to her, and I believe my father has warned her. My sister is conversing with our father again, but she despises Janet and would not have anything to do with her. She goes out of her way to exclude Janet from everything she can, and my sister and I have become closer. As for Larry, we are not and will never be back together. He hasn't entirely accepted it, but things have settled down and I'm no longer hounded as much. He still wants to get back together, but I am not interested. His friends and family will come to accept this. He believes that because things are better between my father and me, I would soften and forgive him, but I can't trust him. As for me, I've started treatment and am working through my issues. I've recognized that my relationship with my father was not entirely his fault, and I share some of the guilt. I spent my life behaving as if he had abandoned me while in reality I had pushed him away. My business is doing great, so I'm just focused on myself right now. I gave my sister-in-law a pregnancy book, unknowingly exposing her affair with my husband's friend. Now the family's in chaos. We know each other since our husbands, Charlie, 26M, sister-in-law Cheryl, 28F, and I, 26F, attended high school together. Charlie and I were in the same year and are sweethearts from high school. We began dating our sophomore year and have been together ever since. With Cheryl, things have always been different. She's always despised me. Hence I would want to say we were high school nemesis as the sentiment was reciprocal. She was a senior 2 years older than us, yet that didn't stop her from being absolutely rude to me. She was a vicious bully in high school, and regrettably, not much has changed since then. Only I could stand up to her back in high school. Everyone else was terrified since Cheryl and her buddies were infamous for mistreating anyone they came across. Some people even moved schools because of their terrible deeds or spreading of tales. They were that horrible. I am not exaggerating. I never feared her, even before Charlie and I began dating. I had always been acquainted with her brother. Cheryl didn't seem like this undefeatable entity to me as he and I had been great friends and I often stayed out at his house. She seemed like any other child. That's how everyone ought to have seen her, in my opinion, but high school can be weird. Still, I wasn't scared of Cheryl. Once I started dating Charlie, I became even more bold. She probably felt powerless over me, even as a senior, and this disturbed her. She once did something truly terrible to me. As usual, one morning upon opening my locker, dead fish and a lot of fish water dropped on me. Head to toe I was covered in nasty, sticky slime. I had to go home since I was so offended and it was embarrassing and demoralizing. Though I couldn't prove Cheryl was behind it, I felt it had to be her. We had a severe verbal argument in the cafeteria the day before. I labeled her a brain-dead zombie in front of her friends, some of whom even laughed. She did this to me since she couldn't let that go. Charlie felt it had to be his sister too, and their argument turned out really intense. He managed to convince her to back off even though he cannot get her to apologize to me. Though Charlie and I have been together for years, Cheryl and I never spoke once that incident occurred. But once Charlie and I got married last year, my in-laws informed Cheryl and me that since we were now family, we had to try more to get along. Some nosy relatives had been questioning our lack of communication or simply glancing at each other during family events, which embarrassed them. Having gone far from high school, I was ready to let the past pass. I agreed to be polite. Cheryl and I shook hands like grown-ups. Though we chose to be friendly at family functions rather than avoid one another, we were not going to be best friends overnight. Things appeared to be going good a year ago. We would say hi and then go on whenever we ran across each other. We had left the bad blood behind us, so I assumed, but then she became cruel once more. She showed up empty-handed on my birthday some few months earlier, which was okay. She then told me she was actually teaching me cooking classes and emailed me an online program she had bought at the party itself while I was opening everyone's gifts. She said it was meant to be a joke, but nobody else laughed and I didn't either. For background, I had done all the cooking for the day alone, hence it was quite nasty. I have always loved working in the kitchen and experimenting even though I am not a professional chef. Since childhood, cooking has been a pastime of mine. Her comment, she was going to give me cooking lessons, was quite nasty, right after she had eaten a whole dinner I had made. As Charlie had pointed out, everyone knew I produced everything. I took it to heart since I had worked hard and woke up at 6:30 a.m. to make sure everything was perfect. No one truly laughed even once she explained it as a joke. She persisted even though several people laughed merely to let her drop it. She kept insisting she was kidding, but she really thought I should have culinary classes since everything she had eaten that day made her feel sick and she kept saying she might throw up at any time. She also made jokes on how everyone should clear the path to the bathroom should she have to barf. She was truly approaching my last nerve at the end of the evening, and I felt relief when she left. She didn't even bother bidding farewell after spending the whole day cracking jokes at the expense of my cooking abilities, which, by the way, aren't particularly horrible. Charlie and everyone else told me the food was fantastic, hence I have no idea what she was talking about. To be honest, I had begun to believe she might be a decent human being, but after my birthday I chose to resume neglect of her. She obviously still lived in her high school mean girl form, and someone like her had no right to be friendly with me. Cheryl had her birthday last week. She had to invite me even if we are not getting along since I asked her to my party. Charlie traveling without me would have been strange, hence she invited me in order to maintain family peace. That proved to be rather a blunder. I chose to let her taste her own medication. Based on a few weeks old overheard talk, I handed her the book What to Expect When You're Expecting . For background, Cheryl came up to our place 3 weeks ago. She insisted on talking to Charlie in private and appeared depressed. She didn't realize I was standing immediately outside listening in on their conversation. I left the room to let them chat in the living room. Though I knew it wasn't moral, I was intrigued and wanted to listen in so Charlie could cover for me when she left. Cheryl was pregnant, per what I understood, but she was truly concerned as she felt unprepared to be pregnant. She had come to consult her brother. Charlie advised her to talk to her spouse even if she felt unprepared. Given that the pregnancy was early, they may discuss ending it should she still feel unprepared. He reasoned that chatting to her husband could allow her to relax and take better control of the circumstances. Cheryl left after briefly consoling her. I told Charlie what I had overheard as she left. We both agreed she had been behaving oddly. She appeared strange coming to us instead of her husband even if she wasn't ready for a baby. She said some things that nearly sounded like she needed Charlie's assistance in covertly ending the pregnancy, but he wasn't ready to engage in such dishonest behavior. He thought her husband ought to know before any decisions were taken. Though ultimately the woman's decision is hers, we felt her spouse at least deserved to be included in the conversation given she was married. We had not heard anything else regarding her pregnancy since that day. Still, I decided to pull a small practical joke on her and handed her that book. Fortunately, she did not unwrap the gifts in front of every visitor at the party, yet it made no difference since the book truly got her into trouble. Her husband might thus eventually find himself leaving her. She called me in tears the day after her birthday, stating I had destroyed her life and charged me with purposefully undermining her marriage. What she was talking about eluded me. She was so enraged and was screaming at me, so I couldn't even get her to clarify what was happening. She hung up silently, done, without further word. Following that phone chat, my in-laws got in touch and reported exactly what had happened. She apparently had been unwrapping all of her gifts with her husband and then that book surfaced. I had even left a note stating that Charlie and I wished to congratulate her and affixed it to the book. She hadn't told anyone yet about the pregnancy, but I wanted to play about with her the way she had done on my birthday. I had no clue it would have such dire results. She could not have become pregnant by her spouse since he was sterile. This was unknown to her. She apparently may have been cheating now, and her spouse had already shown suspicion. That book served to validate his misgivings. Though none of the family members know for sure whether she had been cheating or not, let's be honest, she most certainly wasn't biologically incapable of having children. In any case, that is not my line of work. All I know is she had come to Charlie thinking he would assist her covertly in ending the pregnancy. Now we know why she wanted to keep it a secret and why she was so queasy when she spoke with him. She cannot let that happen if she wanted to end the pregnancy without her husband knowing, since she is a homemaker and everything she spends might be followed by him. Even pulling money would be suspect, as it would be a large sum that would beg problems. Cheryl made a great effort to persuade her husband that I was merely teasing and that nothing was happening. He disagreed when she claimed the book was only a hoax. Unless there was some truth to it, he doubted Charlie and I would pull such a joke. He then requested Cheryl to leave, and today she lives with her parents. My in-laws asked me to talk to her husband and persuade him that I had only handed her the book to play about with. Given his suspicions of her adultery, they believed I might get him to approach her and fix things. Her fidelity now begged additional questions. I disagree, since they think I should not have done what I did and that I'm at blame. For the past week, my in-laws and I have been at conflict. Given her behavior at my birthday celebration, I believe I was justified in what I did. I don't think I should accept the fall for this, as I had no idea it would cause so much trouble. She most certainly should have been faithful to her husband if she wanted peace in her marriage. To hold me responsible for it is unfair. Charlie has the same sentiment. Though he believes the present was a little excessive given the events of my birthday celebration, he does not advise me to apologize to Cheryl or even talk to her husband about any of this. Saying we should resolve things since her marriage is in jeopardy, my in-laws keep fighting with us. They believe that should we fail to persuade her spouse that this was only a joke, the family may suffer from divorce. She most certainly was cheating, though, if she was pregnant when she spoke with Charlie and her husband is sterile. Should that be the case, we want no involvement whatsoever or defense of her. Apart from that, the book was only vengeance for the jokes she cracked at my birthday. I had no clue it would result in anything like this. I have nothing to be guilty over. It is not like I did it on intention. Still, they all seem to be behaving as though I'm the villain, the mastermind behind a sinister scheme meant to wipe her off target or otherwise. It's very strange. Suddenly I'm questioning my choices. AITA kindly sent a pregnancy book as a birthday present to my sister-in-law. Update 1, Hi. So it's been 2 weeks since I handed Cheryl that book, and up until now we have avoided talking to her husband. From what we know, she had been cheating on her husband with another man, hence going forward we will also keep to that. Though I'm not sure specifically, I believe it's someone from high school. Worse, I believe it's someone from Charlie's acquaintance group, since a few days ago we spoke, more of an argument, on the phone with Cheryl. She stated it was quite unjust that she was being held accountable for all of this, but Charlie's friend was equally culpable. However, he wasn't getting any criticism and was even unwilling to defend her. Though we don't know exactly who she's referring to, Charlie has quite a few married pals from high school. That's not really our main concern. Managing my in-laws has proved somewhat challenging. I don't believe they have done it yet. They insist I should chat to her spouse before he files for divorce. He keeps telling he'll do it, but if he truly wants to split, he should have done it now. What he is waiting for is unknown to me. Anyway, they believe they still have time and that, if I only talk to him, I could be able to persuade him not to leave her by stating I was only doing a practical joke. I have nothing to do with all of this drama, hence I refuse to allow myself to get caught in it. Though they have been making it somewhat challenging for us, I simply want to back off and relax. Thus, yesterday we had to make a really difficult choice and ultimately block all 3 of them since they were slightly disturbing us. We can't keep talking to them, trying to help them to grasp where we are coming from. Over 2 weeks have passed. She was truly a bully to me in high school, yet many of the people in the comments on my first post felt it was unacceptable of me to do what I did. She had been cheating, hence I doubt I have to feel guilty about what I did. Still, folks are free to disagree with me in this free nation. Update 2. Hi. 3 days have passed since our last report and at last we were able to identify the person she had been having the affair with. Charlie's friend she mentioned turned out to be among his closest pals. This surprised me somewhat a bit. Because his family was acting somewhat irrationally, Charlie had been complaining to his pals about how challenging things had been for him the past 2 weeks. I suppose his pal chose to come clean as he couldn't tolerate it anymore. He called Charlie and told him he had been seeing Cheryl in an affair. Apparently, all of this began roughly 1 year ago, just around our wedding's time. For us, it was really startling and we are still trying to understand it. Charlie is quite close to every one of his buddies, hence we never expected a betrayal like this. From what we have seen, this guy, who has been married for 3 years, and his wife seem to be truly in love. I personally know the woman. She talks endlessly about her husband. Right now, I just feel somewhat sorry for her. We decided straight away to cut him off, and right now we are not telling anyone since we do not want to discredit him. But we will most certainly not be entertaining this going forward. We even told him to tell his wife straightforward since she is the one who really needs to know the truth. Nobody should ever have to go through what this is like. He also supplied us with evidence of Cheryl cheating on her spouse alongside him. We have come to the conclusion that, at least nothing good would come of it if we allowed ourselves to be pulled into this play. Hence, our last call is keeping them blocked. To what we know, they have not discussed this with anyone else. Everyone still believes we get along well with my in-laws and that Charlie's relatives know nothing about the turmoil underway behind the scene. Given the circumstances, which would be somewhat embarrassing for the family, I'm betting they are keeping things under wraps in order to protect their name. Though I suppose it's a surface motivation, I value their great concern for their perceived image. We don't want to deal with other people right now and it's helping us keep everything secret. As it is, we have sufficient on our plates. Charlie's cousin is getting married in a few weeks, hence they will have to go to that wedding. We're not sure whether my in-laws or Cheryl will be there given the present circumstances, but if they decide to go, boy, that will be quite strange for everyone concerned. Update 3. Hey, practically 2 months after my last update is here. Not truly intriguing events occurred in these previous 2 months. We sort of forgot about my in-laws once we cut them off. Their end also lacked news, hence they did not try to get in touch with us. We thought perhaps Cheryl and her husband had been able to sort things out as neither a pregnancy announcement nor a divorce announcement was made. Good for them, then I suppose. Charlie and I know that adultery never stays secret, thus we really don't really care about what's happening in their marriage. When her husband finds out the truth, she will most certainly receive what she deserves. Regarding the pregnancy, I suppose she stopped it some way. In any case, we didn't bother ourselves with it and kept to our own business as whatever happened is not of importance to us. That was till we visited his family at his cousin's wedding some few days ago. Including Cheryl's spouse and my in-laws, all of them were present. Once we arrived, we acted as though the others did not exist and neglected even greeting each other. Clearly, the rest of the family noticed it right away. People began posing all kinds of inquiries to us. Though they attempted to be subdued about it, we knew they were gathering gossip. But we simply tried to keep to ourselves so nobody would disturb us. We did not entertain anyone. Cheryl, on the other hand, followed a different strategy. She chose to blab her mouth off even though we knew the facts. We were ready to put up with her since we were 3 days at the hotel and it was just a matter of time till we returned home. But she began to say such terrible things about us that we had to confront her about it. Sadly, that resulted in a somewhat public confrontation between our families during the rehearsal dinner. It was someone else's wedding, hence I regret it as Charlie and his cousin got along well. Now one of the events was totally destroyed thanks to us. Naturally, following such a spectacle, we had to leave before the wedding even started since we couldn't stay much longer. We have since apologized multiple times to his cousin. She has indicated she is cool with it, but we still feel quite horrible about what happened. Cheryl and my in-laws, on the other hand, were really in charge of generating all of this turmoil, yet they hardly bothered to apologize to Charlie's cousin. At least we departed of our own will. The other family members practically urged them to go after we departed. Serves them right, they were due this kind of shame. It was pretty fulfilling for both of us when Charlie's cousin told him about it the day before her wedding as we were phoning her apologies. Cheryl had been telling all the family, and everyone who would listen that we had tried to destroy her marriage by lying about her adultery, therefore leading us to a fight in the first place. She said we failed in trying to undermine her marriage. Clearly, that was untrue since, as we indicated, her marriage life is not something we give much thought to. Choosing to live with a lady like her husband had shown how dumb he was. We were even ready to let that slip since we were attending someone else's wedding and we wanted to avoid starting a scene. She then began asserting, though, that we were the ones having an open marriage and that I wanted to get close to her husband, which explained why I'd always been so envious of her. We couldn't live with that. We resolved to face her then. I mentioned all the evidence, the screenshots we had gotten from Charlie's friend, which I had been saving to myself for so long on the evening of the rehearsal dinner. Charlie and I now felt, nonetheless, that it was at last time to defend ourselves. She could not simply say anything she pleased and get away with it. Her husband can no longer ignore reality since he at last knows it. His call is whether or not he takes the correct decision for himself and leaves her. At least now there will be no more questioning of us. At least we left on our own with courtesy, avoiding being thrown out as others were. Though we are now attempting to move over it, it was just a really awful few days. The whole family knows Cheryl's type of person she is, thus I just feel sympathy for her husband as he decided to mend things with her even though it was useless. I truly hope he gets the bravery to escape. Should he decide to remain with her, then he just has absolutely no decency or self-respect. We eventually decided to go ahead and sabotage her marriage as she had been accusing us of for so long. She will now have to pay for trying to bully us. How she planned to get away with all of this is unknown. Since high school, Charlie and I have literally been standing up to Mom. I believe we have made it really evident that we are not scared of her. We were not thus going to back down either right now. She ought to have known that. Update 4. Consequently, it is happening. 2 weeks have passed since our return from Charlie's cousin's wedding, and today I at last heard from a couple of cousins Cheryl wrote about her and her husband divorcing. She said that it was a mutual decision to split ways and urged everyone to honor their privacy during this trying period. What a weight of lies this baggage carries. She's behaving as people weren't present at the wedding and like her entire family isn't aware of what actually happened and the real reason they're divorcing, hence I'm not sure why she's acting like we all already know, hence we will definitely be honoring her privacy. No one has to ask her what happened. The talk began when Charlie told some of his pals, thus even her friends have learned about it. We regret nothing about what we did. She had been spewing so much garbage about us in the past that we hardly need to feel guilty about what we did or regret her. Should she go low, we will go lower as well. Period is. She has always been a bully, thus we believe we did the correct thing as someone needed her down a peg. We are happy to be the ones doing that. If that makes some people view us as the bad guys, that is okay with us. For example, my in-laws have chosen to totally cut us off from their life. They even had their attorney get in touch with Charlie to let him know they had opted to avoid us and most likely would cut us off from the inheritance as well. As like we were going to learn that and start begging for pardon right away. That is not going to transpire. We are not money-based sellouts that one could purchase. Besides, since Cheryl hasn't worked since she graduated and has been depending on either her parents or her husband, they should most likely retain all their money to themselves, presumably for the rest of their lifetime. Thus, yes, they may keep their money and Cheryl with herself by all means. We behaved what we believe to be right. We are not going to act as though we are sorry for it. Right now, Charlie and I are quite happy with our life. We have no interest in anyone else.